Imagine this. You join a medical trial to test a new vitamin. It's just 4 days. Easy money, right? But then, something strange happens. You start falling in love. Fast. Everything feels perfect. But is it real, or just a side effect? Can love come from a pill? And what happens when the effects wear off? This is the Limeren effect, a story of love, science, and the truth about emotions. A great way to practice English while enjoying a fascinating story. Watch the full story and improve your English now. Emma looked around the room at the other participants, 10 men and 10 women, all around the same age. The atmosphere was sterile, the walls painted a dull white, and the fluorescent lights buzzing softly above them. "Thank you all for volunteering for this research study," said a man in a white lab coat at the front of the room. "The medication we're testing, Limeren, is in its final trial phase. All previous studies have shown that it is completely safe." Emma tuned out. She had already read the information packet the research company had sent her, so she knew that Limeren had been approved for sale. They weren't testing for safety anymore. They were testing its effectiveness. She glanced at the other participants, wondering if any of them were in a similar situation, struggling financially, looking for easy money. 4 days in a research facility would be long, but she hoped at least one person here would make the time pass faster. One thing to note, the researcher continued. Some participants in past trials reported heightened emotions, including feelings of joy and affection. "We will be monitoring you throughout the process, so please report any unusual sensations or experiences. If you could all sign the consent forms, we'll begin." Emma barely glanced at the document before signing. Easy money, she thought. "I hope the food's better than last time," muttered the man sitting beside her as he handed in his form. Emma smiled. "You've done this before. More times than I can count. It's the best way to make cash without actually working." He grinned, revealing a dimple in his left cheek. "I'm Jake." "Emma." "Well, Emma," he said. "Looks like we'll be spending the next 4 days together. Let's hope it's interesting." A few hours later, Emma was eating dinner in the common area. She had taken her second dose of Limeren just before the meal and felt good. Maybe it was the vitamins, or maybe it was just nice not having to worry about bills, job applications, or interviews for once. The facility had books, movies, board games, and puzzles. It almost felt like a vacation. She caught Jake watching her from across the table. He smiled. Board game. His eyes were a warm shade of brown, and when he smiled, his dimples deepened. Emma felt her face heat up. "Sure, but I play to win." "Perfect," he said. "Me too." For the next 2 days, Emma and Jake were inseparable. They played games, talked for hours, and watched movies side by side. She learned he was a PhD student researching cognitive sciences. He learned she had a degree in marketing, but was struggling to find steady work. He had a habit of tucking a pen behind his ear when he was thinking. She found it adorable. "I feel like I've known you forever," she admitted one evening as they sat on a couch watching a movie. His knee brushed against hers, sending a spark through her. Her heart raced, and she barely registered what was happening on screen. "Yeah, me too," Jake said. "I guess that's a side effect." "What?" "The heightened emotions. The researchers mentioned it on the first day." Emma had forgotten about that. She had been so caught up in the experience, in the feeling of being near him. Jake hesitated, then reached for her hand. A warm sensation spread through her fingers as he intertwined them with his. She looked up at him, and before she could second-guess herself, she leaned in. Their lips met just as a nurse's voice rang out. "Time for your next dose of Limeren." They pulled apart, laughing. Emma couldn't remember feeling this happy in years. On the last morning of the trial, the lead researcher addressed the group. Thank you for your participation. Any side effects will fade in the coming days. If you experience strong emotions, they will gradually return to normal. We will follow up with you to ensure your well-being. Emma glanced at Jake. What if their connection was just the drug? What if, once the Nuravim wore off, he didn't feel the same way? Let's go on a real date, Jake said, as if reading her mind. Breakfast. Over breakfast, they talked endlessly. Emma felt ridiculous, but she was already sure she was in love. Jake confirmed her thoughts when he said, I've never felt this way before. I can't believe I met you here. But what if it's just the drug? Emma asked hesitantly. Jake smirked. There's only one way to find out. If you stop liking me in a few days, I'll know I was just a science experiment. She laughed. Or maybe your side effects will disappear first. Not a chance, he said. This feels real. For months later, life after the trial wasn't as magical as those first days. Emma found a job. Jake was buried in research. They didn't have endless hours to spend together anymore. But they made time. They met each other's families. Everyone assumed they would get married. And when Jake proposed, Emma felt a spark of that old excitement. 3 years later. I don't have time for this, Emma shouted. Fine, I'll go. Jake snapped, slamming the door behind him. Emma stared after him. Lately, they had been fighting more often. What had happened to the magic? Was love supposed to fade like this? At the grocery store, she wandered into the health section. A familiar name caught her eye. Nuravim. The word sent a rush of nostalgia through her. She grabbed a bottle and tossed it into her cart. 1 year later, Emma found a stash of Nuravim bottles hidden under Jake's clothes. Her stomach dropped. She had taken the supplement for months, telling herself it just helped her stay connected to him. But Jake? Had he been doing the same? Was their love nothing more than a chemical reaction? What's this? She demanded when he got home. Jake glanced at the bottles and shrugged. Oh, Nuravim. I forgot I had those. I haven't taken them in years. Emma blinked. You haven't been taking them? No. What? She hesitated. Had she been fooling herself? The truth hit her like a wave. Love wasn't about chemicals. Nuravim hadn't been keeping their love alive. She had. Jake wrapped his arms around her. Whatever you're thinking, don't doubt us. This, he said, placing a hand over her heart, is real. Emma exhaled. Maybe love wasn't always exciting. Maybe it took work. But as she held on to him, she knew one thing for sure. It was worth it.